Hi, I'm John Green. Welcome to my salon. This is Mental Floss Video, and did you know that every winner of the Indianapolis 500 has their face sculpted onto a 5-foot-tall trophy? Well, 5 feet, 4.75 inches to be exact. It's known as the Borg-Warner Trophy. The trophy itself was created in the mid-1930s, and in 1987 they ran out of room and had to add a second base for all the new heads. Around that time, another tradition started. Now, winners receive a smaller replica of the trophy too. And that's the first of many facts about the Indianapolis 500 celebrating its 100th running this year that I'm going to share with you in today's video. The Indy 500 takes place in Indianapolis, Indiana, although technically it actually happens in a city within Indianapolis called Speedway. Speedway is to Indianapolis what the Vatican is to Italy. Other than that, Speedway and the Vatican have literally nothing in common. Anyway, this also happens to be where we film Mental Floss Video, and I happen to be a huge IndyCar fan, so we're kinda experts here. The race takes place at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, which was built as a combination racetrack and testing facility in 1909. The track itself is 2.5 miles long, and it's kind of a rectangular-shaped oval. It consists of 2 long parallel straights, about 5/8 of a mile each, and then there are 2 short straights at the north and south ends of the speedway, each measuring 1/8 of a mile, and they're linked together by 4 turns of exactly 440 yards from entrance to exit. So that means that over the course of the 500-mile race, the drivers will take 200 laps. It also means that the racetrack is huge. Like, there's actually a golf course inside of it, and there are 235,000 permanent seats at the venue. The speedway also has a nickname, the Brickyard, because the track once contained 3.2 million bricks, but they were eventually replaced by asphalt. However, there is still brick at the start-finish line. The Indianapolis 500 was held for the first time in 1911, so how come the 100th running is in 2016? Well, because 1917 and 1918 were taken off for World War I, and 1942 to 1945 were taken off because of World War II. Unlike most Formula One races, every Indianapolis 500 ever has featured a flying start behind a pace car. By the way, the pace car driver at the 2016 Angie's List Grand Prix of Indianapolis? This guy. Anyway, it's believed that the 1911 inaugural Indy 500 marked the first ever mass rolling start for an automobile race anywhere in the world, and quite possibly the first ever use of a pace car to start a major event. The race has always been held on Memorial Day weekend, and for a long time it was almost always on Memorial Day proper, May 30th, regardless of the day of the week, unless it fell on a Sunday, in which case the race was moved to Monday after Memorial Day. But then in 1971, the Uniform Holiday Bill came into effect, and that fixed Memorial Day as the last Monday in May, as opposed to always being on the 30th, regardless of the day of the week. In 1974, the Indy 500 was held on a Sunday for the first time, and it has remained the Sunday before Memorial Day ever since. The starting field has normally been restricted to the fastest 33 qualifiers, a number based on a 1912 formula theorizing that cars spread equally around the track should be entitled to 400 feet of track apiece. But there have been some exceptions, like in 1916, only 21 cars started the race, and in 1933, there were 42. And after they know who's qualified for the Indy 500, the drivers do get to practice a little, by the way. Like on the Friday before race day, there's an event called Carb Day. That's short for Carburation Day. When it first started, teams used this time to calibrate their carburetors, but nowadays the cars don't have carburetors, so it's just a practice day when lots of people show up and listen to music and drink beer, mostly drink. Speaking of qualifying drivers, we have to talk a little bit about the people who race in the Indy 500. A lot of people dismiss it as just turning left turns. I have turned left turns at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and they are terrifying. A total of 758 drivers have started the race since 1911. A man named Ray Haroon won that first race. His average speed, about 75 miles an hour. Nowadays, winners typically average between 150 and 190 miles per hour. Haroon, by the way, sometimes gets credit for inventing the rear-view mirror in cars. He allegedly got the idea from buggy drivers at the time, and he used a mirror during the race to see what was happening behind him. Moving forward in history a little bit, 1936 winner Louis Meyer was photographed drinking milk post-race. Apparently, he liked to drink buttermilk on hot days, presumably so he could acquire listeria. A milk executive saw the photo, and a tradition was born. Nowadays, officials keep a list of the driver's milk preferences so they know which type to make available depending on who wins the race. In 2015, 15 of the drivers chose whole milk, 14 preferred 2%, and just 4 opted for skim. Nobody chose buttermilk. That was smart. Now, I don't like to criticize professionals, but these are terrible milk choices. I mean, you're expected to chug the milk, and you've just spent hours inside a car, obviously skim. Here's an astonishing tidbit: of the 758 different drivers starting in the Indy 500 over the last 105 years, not a single one of them has had the surname Smith. The greatest number of 500 victories by a driver is 4. 3 drivers have managed it so far: A.J. Foyt, Al Unser, and Rick Mears. No driver has ever won the 500 3 years in a row, but 5 have won it twice in succession: Wilbur Shaw, Maury Rose, Bill Vukovich, Al Unser, and Elio Castroneves. The record for the most number of starts from the pole position is 6 by Rick Mears in 1979, 82, 84, 86, 88, and 91. And yes, I do have that memorized. The greatest number of laps led in a race: 198 out of 200, led by Billy Arnold in 1930. He led all but the first 2 laps. And the greatest number of laps led during a non-winning effort: 196 out of 200 by Ralph De Palma in 1912, who suffered a mechanical failure after leading laps 3 through 198 consecutively. The fewest number of laps led by a winner was by the late, great Dan Weldon of Great Britain, who in 2011 led only the final lap. And finally, I returned to my salon to tell you that this year the Indianapolis 500 will become the only automobile race in history to have been conducted 100 times. So it really is a very historic year. Congratulations to all involved. Thanks for watching Mental Floss video, which is made with the help of all of these nice people. Let me know in comments if you think you could make it for 200 laps without having to pee. Funny story, I asked a race car driver about that once. He said it's very dehydrating running a race like the Indianapolis 500, but then again, when I have to go, I just do. Thanks again for watching, and as we say in my hometown, don't forget to be awesome.